What's up, everybody? Um, Thank you for tuning in. I know it's been a bit since the last video. I was I thought I wanted to cover the Suicide Squad games, but I realized that I did not. It was too depressing. And as you've probably seen, it launched pretty much exactly how I called it. So, anyways, we're going into what I have been wanting to do, and I have been working on this for a while. It's been about a year, I think exactly a year in the making. It could have been done a lot quicker, but I was taking my time. I wasn't trying to like crush through it or whatever. But I am doing a complete series retrospective for Kingdom Hearts, but it is not just a series retrospective in the sense of just like the console games. I'm also doing a complete. I would call it more of a media series. And not like who cares? Not like it's sounding so pretentious. It's not supposed to be that serious. I just wanted to play through Kingdom Hearts. Like I haven't played through it since I was a kid. I just wanted to play through it again, see how it held up, play all the ones that I didn't get to play. Because as a kid, like, man, I had no idea that there was a game in between Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. Like, I'm a kid. Like, I just think it goes 1 and then 2. So, what do I know? I'm going to be looking at not just the games, like I said, but also mobile games. And then they even released manga and like novels as well. So, going to be going over all of that. A few things that I should note before I start, as is probably pretty obvious. I'm not a reviewer. I don't know how to do that. I've never had to review stuff in my life. So these aren't really like reviews so much. If you're looking for like really in-depth reviews, I will be talking about ones that like I used or people that I listened to and stuff as I'm going through this. So I'll leave those links to those in the description, so you can go check those out if you want more like, I don't know, maybe you want like more detailed lore breakdowns or more in-depth game kind of getting more into the nitty-gritty of the games. Like that'll be down there for the people that I used if I needed help with anything. I should also say that I will just warn for spoilers now, because as I get talking and stuff, I don't want to be thinking about like what I'm gonna spoil or not spoil. Obviously, like I'll try because I want people to go and play these games. And if you haven't played them, I want you to be able to play through them and enjoy them. But if there's something that I do like happen to bring up that is like a big spoiler, like I don't want people to get upset at me that I didn't warn. So fair warning here that there could be spoilers ahead as I discuss games that I played through. So there could be some spoilers. But okay, so these were just thoughts that I jotted down while playing, just reactions, whether I thought they were fun or not. I also tried to keep in mind, because this is like are these worth your time? I tried to keep in mind, because worth your time means different things to different people. I try to keep in mind for hardcore like Kingdom Hearts fans, and then also for non-hardcore Kingdom Hearts fans. So just the casuals, as it were. Um, and then I'm sure I'll do something wrong, for somebody like maybe you don't agree that this game is a waste of time or whatever. And I completely get that, because people have they have a lot of feelings about this series. So if I'm wrong, please let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear why. And then I do just want to give a heads up that I played all of these on the 1.5, 2.5, and then 2.8 remixes on the PS4. So just as a heads up of how I played all of these. I should mention there was like this really big kind of online storm that started when it was someone that I think was going to do like the animation for Kingdom Hearts, put out some of like the early concept art for the series that was going to be on Disney. And I guess I could talk about that, but like it's kind of been taken down from everywhere when I was kind of looking for it. Disney, I guess, didn't really like that that he put that out. Which I thought it was interesting. I thought it was really cool. I still hope, I'm holding out hope that maybe they do some kind of like Disney Plus show or whatever. I mean, who knows? We'll see. Anyways, I did want to point that out before someone comes in and is like, hey, you forgot this. No, I remembered. But okay, Kingdom Hearts 1. This game released in 2002. This game has a ton of nostalgia for me, because, you know, I played this with my siblings. We would all gather around. We'd play the game. We'd try to beat the bosses. If one person couldn't beat the boss, then we'd pass it off to the next person until eventually we'd get so frustrated that we'd be like, okay, who's the best at beating this boss? And generally, it was me, so I had to sit there and play until I beat it. Although my sister, she's older than me, so she was pretty good too, and she had a couple of bosses that she beat. But anyways, okay. So first things first, just kind of the general gist of the story. Like I said, it's gonna take way too long to like get into even kind of trying to give like an overview of the stories, because like as simple as you try to make these stories, there's, you know, if you play these games, you know there's nothing simple about Kingdom Hearts. You are Sora and you have your friends on an island, Riku and Kairi, and then the darkness comes, and then you go on an epic quest with Mickey and Goofy and Donald and visit a bunch of Disney worlds. That's what happens in these games. So I'm not gonna get into it any more than that. Because if you're here, chances are you've probably played the games, or you like want to get into them and have like an idea. Okay, so just first kind of initial thoughts. Goofy gets in the way a lot in this first game, way more than he should. I don't know. I don't feel like he got in the way in any of the other games as much as he does in one. And I think a part of the problem is the platforming. And so he just kind of, it doesn't work to have them following, especially how close they have them following. Like these guys are like hugging you as you're walking, Donald and Goofy. That part is a little rough. He gets in the way a lot. I mean, he was blocking swings and everything, blocking jumps. Like I literally had a jump where I was like, oh, I'm gonna make it, and then Goofy's right there on the little plant, and he pushed me off because there was no space to land. Anyways, the gummy ship uh is still not great. You know, as like a lot of these things people are gonna have gone over a lot before. I just kind of want to point them out as I saw them too. Gummy ship in number one is not great. It's pretty boring. I know that even when we did it, I think still to this day, my sister, when she replays these games, she just, you know, pushes the gummy ship, you know, all the way to like the top left or whatever corner of the screen, and then just sits there and then just goes and like does something until she gets to the planet, the new world, because she just doesn't care. And you know, I don't blame her, because it's rough. Like it's pretty boring. And I know that you can get like really into it and like create a bunch of stuff with the gummy ship, and like, you know, do like whole builds and change the body and the weapons and all that. But like, unless you're really achievement chasing and stuff, and like you're trying to get like tons of points and all, like you don't need to. Like it's not hard. It's not. They're not hard missions. Like you just shoot the little things as they fly by. So I have to say that the game, obviously I was a kid when I played it, and I did only play it on what was it, the medium difficulty. um I don't remember what they call it in game, but I did not play it on the hardest one, because I know that that one's pretty brutal. That one essentially just takes you down to like getting almost like one shot essentially, by some of the bosses. So it was easier than I remembered, obviously, from when I was a kid, because I'm a lot better at gaming now, I would hope. But some of the enemies still kind of get like, there's weird like difficulty spikes with them. Specifically the monkey ones in in Deep Jungle. For whatever reason, man, like I died to those a couple times. Just like a regular group of them. So that was weird. But yeah, other than that, like I said, it does seem to be a little bit easier. It is difficult to do without a guide too, I noticed. Like obviously as a kid we were not, we didn't really know what we were doing. And on this playthrough, I was like, okay, I want to do everything. I want to get the ultimate weapon. I want to get all of the uh, Dalmatians. I want to get all of the chests. I want to get, like, I was really trying to like go for it, and that kind of subsided as I went through the rest of them because I was like, okay, these are starting to get long, and trying to do all this, and especially by 3, I was just like, man, I don't really like need the ultimate weapon as I was playing through it. So but yeah, but to do it without a guide, especially like I said, because they really were trying to like incorporate platforming into it, which just didn't work in some places. I did need to like look up. I would have never found, there's specifically, I'm thinking of the chests that are in Hollow Bastion. There are some that are so hidden, like, and you have to know to like jump up on the ledge and like I would, and walk along it and turn, like I would have never found it. So I'm gonna shout out later some of the people that I used in order to find it all, in case you guys are having trouble. Most all of the worlds I am a fan of. I do like them. I think they're a lot of fun. There are just a couple that, there are just, yeah, probably like a few that I'm just not the biggest fan of. The flying carpet section in Aladdin was really annoying. It felt like almost like a Battletoads deal. Like there's no time to react to anything. I felt like I was just kind of getting hit by everything, and like as long as I dodged a couple and my health lasted, like then I was okay. That was what I was gonna have to do, because like it was pretty brutal. Monstro the Whale also sucks. Like you go through it, and it's one of those where it's really really bad with the, not bad, like it feels almost like Metroidvania, like in the sense that it's giving you all of these ledges. You can see these ledges, these places you know that you're supposed to be able to go, but the ledges are just out of reach, and you're like, if only I had, high jump or glide or whatever. And then immediately, as soon as you get it, it's like so much easier to navigate through Monstro. Even though I would argue that because of how the rooms look and how samey they are, it's a little bit difficult to sometimes remember actually like where to go. I did not like how it teased you with the jumps and stuff, because it just felt like the wrong genre of game for that. It just felt annoying because it isn't a Metroidvania. You're not going back to these places to try to get to, a different section in order to gain something better. You're literally just going back to these sections in order to try to find a Dalmatian, or like open a chest and get, you know, I don't know, an ingredient. So that's the only part that like frustrated me, because it's like normally in a Metroidvania you're going and you're getting something, like you're getting a new power, and then you're going to a new area where there's a new boss, or there's like, you know what I mean? Like the backtracking, it just doesn't work in this game, in terms of you're not backtracking for anything really, just to grab some collectibles you missed if you go back. Atlantica, I would say, has to be the worst. And I know that this is not like a hot take or anything, because everybody says this. Um, but there's just really weird boss fight mechanics, just because it's so hard to be able to judge like the vertical planes. Um, because throughout the whole game, obviously you're just dealing in the horizontal, like, because everything pretty much, you're just kind of on the ground, and obviously you like jump and can hit stuff and whatever, or even if you're flying, like flying is just, it's pretty level. Everything with flying, for some reason they decided with the water level, and I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, maybe this is not actually how it went, and it just felt like this to me, but it felt like with the water level they really took it up a notch in terms of like going, like messing with the verticality of like stuff being up and down. Like especially during the Ursula fight, I remember that you're like trying to fight Ursula and she's all the way up here. And then the pot that you have to attack, her like, witch's cauldron, is all of a sudden down here at the bottom. And it's like, and so you're going from attacking her up here to having to go down here and then up here, and like it's so annoying to have to try to like target and switch between and like yeah, I don't know. That was frustrating. And then also I completely forgot that they like have a water shifting effect when you're underwater that goes like across the screen, and that was making me nauseous. Like after being in Atlantica for so long, I was so happy to get out of there cuz I'm like it was making me sick. Like I said, the targeting system can be kind of suspect, but that's not that crazy. I mean, that's kind of any of these games of the era. And I mean, there's some games even now where the targeting's not the best, but that was a bit frustrating. I will say, like I mentioned earlier, I went for the ultimate weapon on this one because I was going to go and do those optional bosses this time. I was gonna beat them, and you kind of need the ultimate weapon. And I'm not gonna lie, the grind for the ultimate weapon it kind of almost ended my playthrough. I was like, man, I don't know if this is worth it. I don't know if I want to do this. Like it was so hard, and the sniper monkeys especially, when you have to go back. If you guys have ever done the grind, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The ones that are in Traverse Town, I think they're in like level 2. They're so hard. Like they're so hard, and you have to use the time stop, and then you're just hoping for a drop, and you're just trying to have all your drops buffed and like so that you get it. And it's nuts, man. Like it's another level. And the secret bosses, like I said, they were a nice surprise. I did not do them obviously when we were kids playing this game because I had no idea like how. I think I remembered Chip saying something about like, "Hey, I think something's going on in Neverland," and I'm like, "Okay, I don't know what that means, dude." Like, I'm a kid. I'm like 12. I don't know. And then we beat the game because, we're excited. We're like, ooh, end of the world. Go and beat the end of the world. And then it's kind of like, okay, well, we're done. Like, when's the next game? We're not thinking that there's like all these other things you can go do. So they're very fun to go back and do. The clock tower boss, not so much. Going back and shouting out those YouTube channels that I could not have made it through this game without. Shady Riku, and then Mudaro, I believe the name is. So I'll have links to their channels down below. If you're having trouble making it through the games in general, or the ultimate grind, or finding Dalmatians, or finding ingredients, whatever, these two helped with all of that. Even like help with some of the bosses, maybe if I got stuck or whatever and had trouble, and they had like some tips on how to beat them. So then we have come to the end, the final boss, and it's the age old thing in a video game where it's like if you've done, and I do this constantly with video games. I love to go and do all of the side quests, all of everything, and finish it up before I go do the final boss. So then I like am done. I got closure. I don't feel like I'm just running around. I just like to fight the last boss and then it's done. The game's over. Move on to the next one. I don't like being like, okay, now let's go finish up everything I didn't finish up. I'd rather get it done before. That's just how I am, I guess. But the final boss is really easy if you do that because you're gonna be really, you're gonna be really over leveled, and it's gonna be like, okay, yeah, this guy is not as hard as I remember him being. And then of course, you know, the song at the end. It's just so early 2000s, and it's almost like jarring how early 2000s it is when it starts because there's just not a lot of songs that sound like that anymore. I love it, and it really fits with Kyrie especially. So that's a banger. So is Kingdom Hearts 1 worth your time to go back and play? uh I think so, yeah. Like I said, the platforming and stuff just did not age well. I'm so glad they took that out, and there's just some jank in it that is going to be frustrating. But overall, as a whole, I think it still holds up. I think it's still a fun game. I think it's very nostalgic. Probably even if you didn't play it like as a kid, it just kind of exudes nostalgia, you know? You'll play it and you'll just kind of feel like they're just, and maybe this is just my nostalgia, so maybe this is completely unfair. I just feel like because they're Disney characters and they're really unfairly, of course, playing into that aspect of it, I just feel like you cannot help but feel like these are just kind of old friends. And you're like, ah, yeah, I remember the days. Because you're not just thinking back about playing the video game. You're thinking back about, you know, if you watched Disney movies back then, if you grew up with these characters. So, and then, like I said, if you can get through some of the nonsense from this era with this game, I definitely think that you'll have a good time. So, yeah, it is worth your time. We have come to Chain of Memories from 2004. So, this game, like I said, as a kid, we went straight from Kingdom Hearts 1 to 2. I was going completely off just what a friend of ours that we knew in our little friend group was saying, because he was the one that was like, "You gotta play Kingdom Hearts, man, it's so cool." He was like, "Oh, and there's a second one." And so we're like, okay, so we just type in at the library Kingdom Hearts 2 and then play it. um, and we were so lost. But anyway, so it was cool to go back and to play Chain of Memories and to be like, oh, this is what happens in between those two games. That makes a lot of sense. I will say that I'm glad we did not find this game back then because I don't think we would have played it. I don't think we would have finished it. And we might have been turned off from playing any of the other Kingdom Hearts games because, man, this is a departure from Kingdom Hearts. So this game is not like a hack and slash action game. Kind of like, you know, it's kind of hard to classify the first Kingdom Hearts. It's kind of its own strange thing. It definitely turns just more into like a traditional action game as it goes on in the series with 2 and 3. But yeah, Chain of Memories deviates completely from this and it goes to be a card battler. Um, Now, Chain of Memories, it initially released as a Game Boy Advance game, and it was just a 2D card battler, obviously with really cool like pixel art and stuff. And yeah, it looks great. But they re-released it on and called it Chain of Memories, and that was obviously what was in the 1.5 remix bundle, and they released it on the PS2. And just from watching some of the gameplay, because I was very curious because I went and looked, I'm like, okay, this is what it looks like in a 3D space with like card battling and all of these elements that are like, you know, it's 3D world, but like you're trying to target and like swap through your cards. I actually did go and look up some gameplay for the original Game Boy Advance, and I was like, you know, this almost looks like the better way to play it. I will just say that right now. Not having to worry about the 3D space that you're in, I feel like really helps the just overall vibe, and how you just can only worry about, you know, switching through cards quick with like the L and R button, just kind of going based off that, dodging attacks like just by running back and forth, instead of, like I said, in the 3D world it does get kind of hard. I also feel like it's really easy to kind of screw yourself easily in this game, because the first few bosses are really a breeze, like they're really easy. And I know this happened to me. I was like, oh, this game's gonna be really easy, like it's not gonna be that big a deal. And like, and you don't aren't really worrying about like trying to build decks or like, you know, get the right cards, whatever it may be. And you can kind of just win based off of like I said, just how good you are at dodging, and like and just kind of your combat skills. But then after that first few bosses, you're gonna hit a wall. um and then after that, it took me probably like, you know, 4 or 5 tries to kill a boss every time after that. So pay attention to that if you're going into it. Like really just start at the very beginning trying to get your deck built right, because that's gonna come in handy a lot later. I will say that the music also felt like really noticeably diminished for me. Obviously Kingdom Hearts is kind of known for having some of like the best music in gaming, which I do find true, and it holds up throughout the playthrough that I had. But I will say in this one, it was a noticeable drop off, especially because of how strong it was in Kingdom Hearts 1. 2 was weird. And I'm wondering if it has to do with the fact that it was kind of like a reimagined port that they ported up to the PlayStation 2. Like Castle, like Oblivion Castle is literally just, it's just a few bells hitting, and like, and that's all it's doing the whole time. And I know that like maybe they're trying to create like a kind of like a creepy atmosphere, but it just, I don't know, it didn't work for me. Maybe you will disagree, but yeah, I didn't like those just few bells just kind of hitting every now and again. It felt just kind of very like an afterthought, and just kind of like oh, what can we put here? This, just have a few bells hit, doom doom doom, like, and that's it. But I will say it is all saved because of the nominee theme. That is probably one of my top like three themes from Kingdom Hearts as a whole. Still, even through the rest of the series, it probably is obviously like the main theme, and then Roxas's theme, and then Nominee. Like, it's so good. The game does feel like a little bit lazy too. um, Man, I don't know. I don't know what's like a hot take or not for this game. I feel like people are aware of like the problems that are kind of plague this series, but I don't know. We'll see. Um, it's just like we're going to the same worlds. Like we're rehashing the same worlds. It's the same storyline. They just get to be like, "Oh yeah, you forgot, so do it again." Which to me is kind of a cheap, plot device. But it is what it is. Obviously, in the game, you come across a replica of Riku, and every time I fought him, I was like, "Oh, this has to be the last time. This has to be the last time." But I went and counted. I'm 90% sure that I'm right, that I counted correctly. You fight the Riku replica 5 times. You're fighting the same enemy 5 times. And I understand that like he kind of gets some stuff added and like some different moves and like, but I just don't like fighting the same enemy 5 times, especially when we're talking about a Kingdom Hearts game. Like you have the entirety of the Disney IP at your hands, and there's so many different worlds you could go to, or different villains you could have, or whatever. I don't want to fight a replica 5 times. Like that seems nuts to me. And just like a waste of my time. But that was what they chose to do. Castle Oblivion, I wish I could forget. Um, um, it's just an unbelievable amount of floors and enemies and waves of enemies, and it's insane. It is so grindy. It is like, and I'm pretty sure, again, just from kind of checking out the, like I said, Game Boy Advance playthrough versus the one on the PS2, it felt like they really upped the grind. So it would take you longer. It's insane. Um, Especially, man, that last, because I believe there are 10 floors. That last floor, the 10th floor for Castle Oblivion, there's so many rooms. There's so many rooms. Oh my god. Like, as you can tell, I'm still, I don't like thinking about it. It takes me back, and it's too much. It's too scary. But yeah, there's a lot of filler, man. The most frustrating part of all of this is that there is a good game in there somewhere. Like I said, I do feel like it exists more on the Game Boy Advance side, just from what I was able to see when I looked into it. But the good game is just kind of hidden behind too much filler, too much grinding, and just unnecessarily punishing bosses, especially for what I thought was not a very like well explained gameplay loop. Like I said, I had to go onto the internet and like look at people, and people on there were so helpful and had like different tips of like what to do and how stuff worked, and like um and I just felt like that was so much more helpful than anything that they taught me in that game. And that could be really frustrating, especially if you're a kid picking this up, back in the day, and you're like, "Oh, cool, let's see what happens next with my favorite buddy Sora." And then you're all of a sudden just, getting just curb stomped by these Organization 13 members, you might be like, yeah, where's Maleficent, or where are the Disney characters? I'm also not a huge fan of like the whole double boss thing. I know that especially in this series, it's kind of like a main trope. At the end of games, you've got like the um I don't mind when they power up into like something different, but I prefer it when it's like you beat the boss down like halfway and then it like morphs into level 2 or whatever it is. I don't like when you completely beat the boss, you take it all the way down, you've taken all his life, and then all of a sudden it's like, "Oh, by the way, here is here's a whole I'm going to turn into something even more powerful, more crazy. All my life's back. Actually, no, I have even more life this time. Keep going." And there's no break in between. That is tough. I will say that. Uh Especially at like the end of the last boss, I was having a bit of trouble. I was able eventually to beat him because I was able to get up to level 57. And I beat him in 3 tries, and I just used a lot of mega flares and a lot of time raids to just stop him. So, and then one part of this that I did not know actually was that you play through as Sora, and then you play through as Riku. Which I was a little worried about because I'm like, man, if Riku's playthrough is anything like Sora's, like, man, game is gonna take me forever. But it was actually surprising how much easier Riku's playthrough was. He's got the power of the darkness that you can use, which is pretty cool, and it's a nice change from Sora's powers. So that helped. Um, but they also removed deck building for you when you have Riku, and they supplied you with the decks, which was kind of frustrating because some of them were not obviously crafted exactly how I would have liked to have crafted them. Especially with some of the abilities that Riku had, I felt like I could have, really done something with that and had like some really cool builds. But also on the flip side, it was a bit of a relief because you just don't have to worry about it, and that's just less time that you're putting into sitting there being like, okay, how many numbers of these cards should I have in there? How many zero cards should I have? And like, it was a bit of a relief in that sense. I also, this is a weird one, but, and I almost don't want to mention this, but why did they put Naminé in sandals? Like, that's such a weird choice. These characters have such huge feet because they wanted to proportion them somewhat similarly to the Disney characters so they didn't look completely out of place. And Mickey and Donald, Goofy, like they got big feet because they're freaking cartoon characters. And like, so I understand why their feet are the size they are. I just don't understand why you had to show them. Like, Naminé is walking around with like freaking flippers, man. Like, because she's in sandals. It's nuts. Like, it's so weird looking. Overall, we've come to the end of Chain of Memories. Is this game worth your time? I'm gonna have to say no. I don't think it is. I know there are some people that really enjoy this game, especially when I was looking online. I saw people that just love deck building. They love putting together, different really cool and unbeatable decks, and cards that chained well and comboed and everything. And like, and maybe it's just because I'm just not really into that. But I just don't think that it was that good of a game. I think hardcore fans are even gonna feel the slog, as they try to finish this game. Because like I said, they really did try to stretch it out and make you fight a lot. Like at the end there, I was using a lot of the cards I had saved up to just skip, like, make the rooms save rooms or whatever, or make them uh Moogle, marketplaces so that I did not have to keep fighting enemies every time I went in. I would definitely recommend watching the cutscenes. People have compiled all the cutscenes on YouTube, and you can just go and watch them there, which is cool. Not a bad way to do it. Um, And I don't think that that would be the worst thing to do. Either that, or if you would like, I know it's kind of hard to access, but if you want to maybe like if you have a Game Boy Advance somehow still, I mean I do, but I don't know how many people have kept those. But if you have one, like maybe try to grab a copy of the Game Boy Advance game, or if you want to emulate it and you want to do that, that could be a lot better too. But otherwise, yeah, no, I can't recommend it. And I really do think that you'll thank me later, especially if you're playing through these for the first time. Okay, so now we have come to 358 over 2 days, which came out in 2009. I feel like right off the bat, we should probably give this thing negative points just for the name. I know that if anybody comments, there's gonna be somebody that comments and is gonna be like, actually the name means because of this blah blah. I don't care. It's a terrible name. It's so bad. The storyline in this is really confusing. And I don't know. Like this whole game series is like well known for being pretty confusing. And like one of those that you just can't really think about it too hard. I found myself having to watch some videos explaining the lore, like, and then I was like, I don't really even like really care that much about the lore, and especially because the person who was even explaining it, who does a really good job, I recommend checking out Clems's videos if you haven't. I'll put those down in the description too. But um, he does a great job explaining them, but like, it's just like, do you really? Like, do I care? Like, because even Clemps is like, yeah, this part's kind of confusing, or yeah, this part, I don't think about it too much. And it's like, even if the person even breaking this down for you doesn't really get it that much, like, uh, really, like, I promise you, don't think about it too hard. But anyway, so this one especially to me was really confusing. And I'm really happy that I just watched the movie for this one. That might give me some angry comments too, but I'm so glad I didn't have to play this thing again, man. Like I went and looked up gameplay as I always do to see what it looked like, see what happened, what where you go, and it's the same thing. You're going to the same places, you're going to the same worlds. I don't want to do that again. And I know that we get to know Roxas and really come to like and love him and really feel for him, but I feel like if you just started this game and you have no idea who this kid is and you're like, why do I care? Like, you're going to want to play through an entire game of no Sora, no Riku, no Kairi, nobody that you know, and you're going to just like be cool with that. I should also point out I am playing these games through in the way with how Square Enix recommended you play them through. I know, I believe it's release order date is the way I played it through. I know you can also play them through chronologically, but that seems like craziness to me. Because I feel like they kind of like explain stuff as you're going through and then make like prequels and sequels, and you know what I mean? Like it feels like you kind of have to know who the person is before. That's just me, but I don't know. I play it however you want, but yeah, I do love too that for the movie, you can tell they really went hard on the movie. Like it was really well done. You can tell that like they had some new compositions playing, which was really cool. They kind of like either redid some of the old ones or like they came up with some new ones, for places such as Twilight Town and all that. But um, yeah, is it worth your time? Uh, No, I don't think so if you're wanting to play the game. Also, yeah, like I said, I did just watch the movie. People might be upset about that too, maybe. Um, because oh, you got to play the 3DS game. I don't have a 3DS. Like I didn't feel like getting an emulator just to play this one, especially as I said when I looked it up and you're going through and you're playing through the same worlds again. Like I didn't want to do it. But I watched the movie. I understood what was going on, like, as much as I could with the lore and everything. So, uh, I will say if you're wanting to play the game, no, I don't think it's worth it. I have heard some people say that it was pretty fun for like a 3DS game, But like the problem is that it does end up getting really repetitive in terms of the fighting, and then of course in terms of the worlds and the the monsters that you're facing. Um, but the movie itself is actually pretty charming. And you might not really understand it, especially the first time through, but you will find yourself moved by it. I was, even though I didn't really know exactly what was going on 100%, but it was still sad. They all killed it in their voice acting roles. Um, and it's about 3 hours. So, you could just do what I did. I got my friends together in Discord. I just streamed it on the screen and we had a little watch party uh for 358 over 2 days. So yeah, I feel like this one is really the first one we've come to where it's like, yeah, you're either like a really, really huge Kingdom Hearts fan or you're not. And this is kind of like your deciding moment. Like if you're gonna go all in on this one, then you're in for the long haul. But if not, then that's perfectly fine. I don't recommend playing it. I recommend watching it, yes, but I don't think it's hugely necessary, no. All right, so now we come to 2005, Kingdom Hearts 2. I'm just gonna lay it out there right now. This is my favorite one of the series. It feels better in every way than the first game. They got rid of the weird platforming. The animations, cutscenes, storylines, everything is just too cranked to another level. You get two keyblades, like you feel like a Jedi, just like all powerful. Everything about it is just it's awesome, man. The only weird part is deciding between summons and valors. I feel like that kind of sucked. I wish that you could do both. Obviously, it would not be fair if you could do both. um, because that would just be really, really overpowered. But yeah, that kind of sucked. I did find myself also just keeping it on Valor because it's like Valor's so nice. You can even switch over to have the like the ability to where if you're getting attacked, then you can, if you die, you just instantly go into Valor mode and just like saves you again, like a second chance thing. um and so I just found myself doing that because it's like, what do I care? Like I don't you know sure, I'm gonna take another whole life. The worlds are all amazing. None of them feel like shortchanged. Like there's like new ones that are super cool, and then going back to the old ones doesn't feel like you're retreading anything. Like they feel new and cool and fresh. The gummy ship is actually fun now. Like it's so improved to be like an on rails bullet hell shooter. And it's actually a lot of fun. I found myself like kind of getting into it with like the build and stuff because I'm like, yeah, let's see like how many bullets I can have coming off this thing and like taking out the bad guys and how quickly and there were like boss fights and like it's well done. They really fix that. They also help you a lot more, obviously. They did a lot better with that this time around. They force you into the gummy ship and figuring out how to do it, making you synthesize, teaching you how to do that. Um, the big chests are like always just right there, and it's like, hey, this is your map, this is your whatever else, most important thing that you're going to need, and then you can go and find the other chests if you want them and look for them that way. What are some of the other ones I want to touch on? Timeless River, I thought that was just an awesome idea. Like um I guess I should say it's fun in the sense of how they're playing with time travel with like Donald and Mickey and Goofy and like the Disney castle. um Time travel is going to come up later in this series, and I'm I'm not gonna look at it so favorably as now. Spoiler alert, but it was very cool how they used it in this game. I do think that Atlantis being a rhythm game really helped. And obviously it's kind of dumb and silly and like who cares? Like was it really necessary? No. But man, it sure beats having to go through Atlantis. I was really worried that I was gonna have to do the a water world again. I completely forgot that it had moved to a rhythm game. So The Assault on Hollow Bastion is still just like one of the most epic things in a game. Like they did such a great job with that of really making you feel like you're just surrounded by Heartless, like, and you are just the, you know, biggest, coolest protagonist in the game that's gonna take all of them out. You're going into your Valor form and using all your magic, and yeah, it's awesome. I would have to say that of all, I thought the bosses were really well done too. The only one that I probably was not a huge fan of was the chest boss on Port Royal, where you had to kind of like take him out by knocking out his coins of the chest. And I get what they were trying to do in the sense of like what the Pirates of the Caribbean was about. Um, but yeah, I didn't really care for that one. It was kind of annoying to try to get the coins out and like and then you can only do damage then, and I don't know. It felt like it was just kind of tricky to like get um the quick time event to go. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I was just having a problem with that one, but that was the only one that I did not really care for. Heartless Sora is also really funny when you turn into him. I'm like I completely forgot and it was very unexpected. I know that some people really hate Heartless Sora because he's kind of hard to control and is just not as good as the other Valor forms. But I don't know. I thought it was kind of cool, and I thought it was a cool just kind of intro into the story too about like, oh yeah, remember how Sora turned into a Heartless in the first game, and like, oh, and now it's still in his heart, and he's gonna turn into one, and who knows when. And so I did think that was cool. The voice acting, of course, is amazing. I especially did not remember that Christopher Lee was Ansem. Um, which was just so cool, and it adds so much to the game when he's in there talking. It was awesome. I loved whenever he was in it. I did like how they flipped the script too, with like the whole storyline of having Xehanort be the bad guy, and you find out that like he kind of takes the place of he takes Ansem's place in the world, and calls himself that, and continues the studies. And even though I think overall it probably makes less sense, and it does feel a little bit like Nomura was just kind of like, hey, you know what's a good idea, and then just like went with it, even though maybe he like hadn't been thinking of that really in the first game. But I still think it was cool. The Cave of Remembrance. I did not do that one when I first played this as a kid, so that one was really fun to go back and do. I actually did really like the air puzzles, especially like I had a bunch of fun with that and trying to make sure that like you had uh, your jump and your dash like high enough level that you could make it through. But the Gauntlet of Nobodies at the end it felt kind of unnecessary, like how many they had, and they had so much health. Like I probably died there like 6 times, and maybe I just suck at the game. Like that's very plausible. It felt a little unnecessarily hard. Especially for some of the nobodies that they had in there, because some of them are pretty tough. Like the ones that summon the cubes, or like especially the ones that skate around and then they grab you, like, and it's like almost an insta kill. Like, yeah, I don't know. I didn't like that. I did not do the lingering will fight. I thought about it, but then I saw like how much you had to put into it, how high of levels you had to get, like the ultimate keyblade, like and like you don't really get anything for doing it. I don't know. Maybe by this point I was realizing that if I was going to get through all of these games within like a reasonable amount of time, um, since I do have other things I'm working on, it's just kind of like not feasible to do every single thing. Um, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it didn't sound as fun, especially because whenever I looked up like tips on how to beat him, a lot of people were just like, do this, and then they would just do the flipping trick where you just kind of loop him and get him stuck. And I tried it and I got it a bit, and if I had practiced it more, I definitely could have done it. But I was just like, I mean, I don't know if this is worth it. Like, do I really care about beating him that much to try to like learn this weird fight style? Not really. I also didn't do the data fights. I might later. I know again people might get upset. Boy, you didn't do the data fight, it doesn't count. But you don't get anything for doing them except like achievements. And I'm not achievement hunting. I'm not trying to like 100% the games. And like anytime you looked up like how to beat them, because I did try a few of them. Um, Most of the time, whenever you looked up how to beat them, a lot of people in the comments were just like, "Yeah, these are kind of tedious." Like, and none of them were like, "Oh," I mean, there were a few, of course, of people being like, "Oh, these are so fun," but most of the time, it was people being like, "Yeah, these are really tedious. Like, only do them if you're like really, really, really into this stuff. Otherwise, they're just not all that much fun." Um, and again, maybe that they're the vocal minority. I don't know. But I mean, they were usually some of the top comments that were like, I don't like doing these fights. Um, but maybe I go back and try them. I don't know. Is this game worth your time? Absolutely, it is. Even people who are not fans of Kingdom Hearts, I think, could get something from this. If you like just really fun action, just hack and slash games, like it has some of the best sword play in this one. It feels so good, like fighting the bad guys and the combos you can get and being in the air. The mix between being in the air and on the ground, I thought this was like the perfect balance. I think we'll see as we go on later. They kind of lost that balance. But this one is it's awesome. It's great. I can't say enough good things about this game. And it still holds up, I think. So okay. This is Kingdom Hearts Mobile, which came out in 2008. Shout out to Blaze K for the gameplay footage. Um, it's I guess at the time Square Enix was just kind of trying to put Kingdom Hearts everywhere. And this was one of their ideas was of course, to put it on your phone. Which I guess looking back actually pretty is pretty advanced thinking. Because now most games, if they're that big, yeah, try to do mobile tie-ins or have like some kind of mobile game at least. But yeah, it is a little game where you're Sora and you're on Destiny Islands. You go around and you're trying to do like little tasks and quests to try to get off the island. Um, I, I don't know how much else to say about it. There's not a whole lot going on. I mean, what you're seeing is what you get. It came out on only one phone. Um, that was only in Japan, as far as I'm aware. I don't know that it came to the states. It might have on that one specific phone. I don't know, but uh, yeah, it's rough. It's it's an old phone game. Is it worth your time? Man, I don't even know how you'd play this thing. So no, it's absolutely not. Don't bother trying to find this thing. If you really want to watch the rest of this, I'll have the link in the description for Blaze Case, but for for Blaze K's video, but otherwise, no, yeah, this is you don't need this. All right, and next we have Birth by Sleep in 2010. So this one is a ported PSP game. Do need to keep that in mind because I kind of forgot when I first started, and I was like, "Wow, these graphics are so much worse than Kingdom Hearts 2." But I forgot that uh, it's just a ported PSP game. So I got really really lost in the beginning. I wish they would have shown you more of how to like actually meld with the characters. I still don't feel like I ever fully understood how to meld with other characters and then how to D-Link, which I should just point out that D-Link sounds like the opposite of what you're trying to do because I think D-Link was when you like actually make your linking with characters more powerful, but it just sounds like de-link, like DELINK. Like you're de-linking with them and you are severing the connection. So also very weird, a weird name for that. But yeah, I wish they would have taught a little bit more about that because I didn't feel like they went over that very well. And Terra's voice actor is pretty atrocious. Usually the voice acting in this game, like I said, especially coming from Kingdom Hearts 2, where I thought it was some of the strongest in the series. And then going into Birth by Sleep, Terra's voice actor especially is just like straight up wooden. Like I know there's a lot of people that really like him, and I feel like a lot of that is just nostalgia, because there's no way that they can actually think that it's good. He's just not that good. It just doesn't sound good. But as for the rest of them, I mean, it was an awesome surprise to hear Mark Hamill in there as Ericus. And I thought that for the most part, everybody else was pretty good. Just Aqua and Terra were a little bit for me a little suspect. But the worlds are kind of laid out in a bit of a bare and boring way, especially coming from Kingdom Hearts 2. I understand that that was necessary because, again, like I said, it's a PSP game. Like, they can't do, all the stuff that they can on a console with hardware. But it was, some of them did feel just kind of boring and empty. And you're just running around in like a big, just empty spot on the map. And you're like, oh, there's nothing here. Okay, there's literally nothing here. I just ran around this big empty patch for nothing. So that was a little frustrating. I was really excited to see though that they actually went for it. They did new worlds, which is really awesome and exciting. Worlds that were not in some of the other games. Again, I really like when they do that and attempt to step out during the series and try new ones. Bosses are actually more interesting than I thought that they were gonna be. The mirror fight especially was like really creative, I thought, in the Snow White world, Seven Dwarves mine. I believe that one was actually like in the castle though of the queen is where that fight took place. But I thought it was very well done. I thought it was pretty creative how you go into the mirror and then you're fighting in the mirror world. And he creates like replicas and stuff. It's cool. And even the one in Cinderella, I believe in Cinderella's world, if I'm recalling correctly, like I said, I played these a bit ago. It had the uh pumpkin carriage turned into a heartless, and that one was pretty fun too. I do have to say though, as far as the storyline goes, the story is kind of literally turning into Star Wars, like before before our eyes. And I know maybe that sounds weird. Hear me out though. Um, Terra can't become a master, right? But he can with Xehanort, just like Anakin couldn't become a master, but he could because Palpatine promised him. So then he pretends to be captured, and then Xehanort's literally saying darkness should be embraced, not pushed away. This is how you'll get what you want. And I understand that it does deviate eventually in the end because Terra realizes that that's the wrong way to go, and he does go back to being a good guy. But it was feeling a little samey there for a bit. I'm not gonna lie. I did just want to point that out. The way that they all fight, I did appreciate that they all fight differently. But Ventus feels much more powerful than the other two, than Terra and Aqua. He's super fast. He can do really quick attacks. If you just build your deck correctly with him, which I should point out, this is another kind of deck building game. I just feel like he's just definitely more powerful. As I went along as Ventus, I started to see, that they were just going to repeat worlds, and a little bit lazily, in my opinion, from then on. Worlds like it just kind of was a mixed bag. Worlds like Cinderella's, those were cool because they showed like a different area, and you went and did like a whole different section. You got to be like small with the mice and like do stuff like, so in that aspect that was like really fun, versus when you go back to Disney Town, it was not fun. It was the same thing. So again, like I said, kind of a mixed bag, especially as you're going through, you know, a tri storyline that's gonna all converge at the end. Um, the mini games also in Disney Town, just while we're on the topic, were really bad. Not even Atlantis with like the rhythm game were as bad as that ice cream mini game. Like I seriously had to play and like actually try with that one. And it took me probably like 3 or 4 tries to do it, which is really dumb that I shouldn't have to do that, especially for a stupid ice cream mini game. And I don't even care. Like I didn't like, why is that integral to the story that I have to go do that? That did bother me. Talking about the sameness, you get the same keyblades for everyone too. Which I understand, you're all going to the same place, you're all getting the same keyblades, but I don't understand. Like, I felt like they maybe could have just, maybe Terra doesn't, maybe all of them don't get the exact same keyblades from every single place. Maybe Terra gets a keyblade from the first world, and then when you're playing through with Aqua, she gets the one from the second world, and then Ventus gets one from the third world. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't feel like we needed the exact same keyblades after every single world for every single character. And in speaking of the triple, converging storyline, I don't know if anybody ever saw the movie Vantage Point. This is kind of a weird, obscure reference, but so in this movie, it's a Kevin Costner movie. It's told from 4 different perspectives, and everybody is like in a different place during the 4 different perspectives, but they have to like kind of show them all hitting the same beats so you know where they all are in the story. It's a 2-hour movie, and so every single person's vantage point is shown in half-hour increments until the end when it all comes together and they catch the guy or whatever happens. I'm sorry I spoiled Vantage Point for you. But it ends up feeling a lot like that, where it's just not that much fun watching the same story beats be hit for the third time. By the time you're doing Ventus's, you're just like, dude, I get it. Like, I've done this part, I've done this section. Like, you're okay to skip it and just have us all hit different story beats. Like, that would have been fine. So I do wish they would have done that. I really wish it wouldn't have been so much of the same. I did not unlock the final chapter or the secret movie. You have to play it on like the hardest difficulty in order to get it the easiest possible way. So I did end up just going and watching it on YouTube. I also did not want to kill 10,000 unversed because I didn't play the game in proud mode, like I said. But I will say that it was pretty cool to see everything link back to Sora. Even if I was still not sure how the story was going in terms of how much sense it's making in relation to plot holes. I feel like we're already reaching some, which is fine. Like I said, don't think about it too hard with this game, but it feels like we definitely already hit some plot holes. So just be prepared for that if you're going to be playing this in, trying to understand what's happening in regards to the story. Is it worth your time? I would have to actually say yes. I know it sounded like maybe I had a lot of problems with this game. But I would say yes, because it's really not that long of a game. Playing through all 3, I don't know, I think it probably took me like 25 hours, 30 hours, something like that. So not a lot. Everybody's is about 10 hours to finish. I would say the best part is that you know what you're getting into. Now your love of the series might kind of be a deciding factor, because you're going to be playing as people who are not Sora for pretty much the entire game. If you are not cool with that and you don't want to, be someone other than Sora, then you might not have a good time with this one. But I think it's fun. Some of the boss fights are still cool. They had a good amount of difficulty. I had to grind a little bit to reach the right level, and I felt like I really found the correct level sweet spot for fighting the bad guys, for where I didn't just go in and just you know curb stomp them, but it was like you go in and it was still like a hard fight. Like you're dodging, you're using your cures, you're trying to time everything correctly. But still, you have a chance to beat them, and you don't feel like you're hitting them, 1,000 times with your Keyblade, and you've taken like a fourth of their health. So, is it worth it? Yeah, I think so. All right, Recoded. um, this came out in 2010. They really made Sora lose his memory 3 times already in this series. Um, Only playing through the first 4 games. Like, okay, I guess maybe 5 if we're counting like the mobile game, but I cannot believe how often that has been used as a trope already for storytelling. I also understand that they were kind of like trying to tie everyone together, but I'm not sure that this was really the best way to do it. I should point out too that Recoded is they turned it into just a movie again for the release. There actually is a Recoded game, which was I think again for the 3DS. I believe even initially it actually came out on for phones, but then they ported it and built it up into a lot more than it was. Put it on the 3DS, and again, I didn't search it out, because I figured, I'm just gonna watch the movie, see what it's about. I'm glad that I did that because this game again, you're going through a lot of the same things. I know that might sound very surprising, but you are. So, in going through online and seeing what people were saying about this game back in the day and even now, I know that this people are pretty split because some of them appreciated like the different genres that this game was dipping into and had you swap between in terms of the different levels because a lot of them would like change what you were doing. But yeah, this one it just felt like it was another one that I'm really glad that I did not have to play through because the gist of the story is that Jiminy's journal, that's a lot of J sounds, is that it's been infected by a virus. And yes, the journal, the paper journal has been infected by a virus. And so you have to go through digitally and take the virus out by uploading the book into a computer. None of it makes sense. Like it makes zero sense. Maleficent shows up and she wants to try to steal the journal and just like it is bonkers, makes absolutely no sense. This is another one, like I said, that I felt glad I did not have to play through hours of just to feel disappointed by the story again. So, is Recoded worth your time? No, I don't think so. Unless you're like a complete sicko for the story. There are YouTube videos out there that will spell it out for you in much simpler terms than this game ever could. This was another one where, like I said, I tried to do a watch party with my friends in the Discord, and we were all so lost, and they were like, "That was the dumbest thing that I've seen," and even me, who has a soft spot for this series, and obviously I'm playing through it, I was just like, "Yeah, I can't believe that was a real thing that I just watched." Like I said, I mean, if you're curious, go check it out. But it's just not worth it. I don't think it advances the story at all. Nothing happens at the end of the story. We're right back to the beginning of where we were. Nothing happened. It's not worth it. Okay, in 2012, we got Dream Drop Distance. So once again, it's kind of doing the replaying things again. I'm running through the same world twice because I'm having to do it as Sora and as Riku. Which I'm just not a fan of. Like, make it different. Like I said, when you were running through Cinderella's world in Birth by Sleep, like why can't you give me a whole new thing to do in that one where you can be with the mice, Gus and them, and you're trying to escape from the cat and stuff, and like it's fun. It's a whole different section of the story. Like I don't understand why I'm going through the same places and doing the same things essentially. I like the bosses usually are like somewhat different when you get to them at the end, but I don't think that's enough. The free flow system is also strange. It feels like it should be more powerful than it is. And then you sometimes still just get blown up while you're spinning on like a lamppost. um, and this is where I was saying that the game kind of starts to, because like I said, Kingdom Hearts 2 had the perfect mix of like being in the air and on the ground, and this is where I feel like it really starts to kind of go off the rails, and it leans too much into being up in the air, and it kind of it messes with the balance of the game, I think, and especially with the fighting. Like I said, Clemps actually talks about this a lot in his Dream Drop Distance specifically just that game breakdown. So I'll have that in the description, but he goes into it a lot more and explains why it feels like that and why it doesn't feel as good. And I have to agree. I don't. I'm not that big of a fan of it. This also begs the question. I know this is like a huge joke, but that everybody who has played the series makes. But like, why is Sora and Riku's test to become masters so much harder than Aqua and them when they all just had to fight bubbles? And and I understand that Sora has to learn how to do the waking, but like, it feels so much harder, like just crazy amounts of more difficult. The pet system is also kind of strange. Once again, they don't explain it a ton, and I've just kind of given up on caring when they bring in these new things that I know are just going to be gone by the next game. So I'm just like, I really don't care to learn you. I will just continue to do the thing that I know best, which is sword fighting and or keyblade fighting, I guess. And especially because as I'm going through the game, and I understand I'm not playing on proud mode, but I'm still not really needing the pets to like beat these bosses. And so I'm just like, because my pets like weren't super leveled up, and I kind of would go through their skill tree and stuff and grab some stuff when I remembered, but I was still beating the bosses, and I'm just like, I don't know how important these things are. I would say that the first world especially was very strange to go into. Notre Dame or Notre Dame. It's just such a heavy world. Like they're talking about like genocide and like ethnic cleansing and like I haven't seen the Hunchback of Notre Dame. Like I don't even know if I watched it as a kid growing up. I can't remember if it's that intense in the movie, but like it felt really intense in this video game. I couldn't believe that these were the things we're talking about as I'm running around with like this freaking fat panda as my little pet next to me, or like, the little bouncy cat that you slam down on the ground to destroy Heartless. I'm just like, wow, this is like whiplash from the tone. I will say also that dropping in is not really great. Like it feels like a really weird, like weirdly tacked on mobile game. This game too, it should be pointed out, this came out for the PS Vita and was ported onto this mix, final mix compilation. And so I'm thinking maybe like some of these things that I have problems with were created in the sense of like wanting to utilize some of the Vita's like movement features or like touch screen, or I believe you could even touch the back of the Vita. I should know I have a Vita, but like I haven't played a ton of games on it yet. Yeah, I didn't care for the dropping in. Kingdom Hearts in and of itself is all about friendship too. It's about your group, right? It's about like Donald and Goofy. You have two pals, or Kairi and Riku. Like they take the place of the three, so it's always the three of you. Mickey joins the group. So to me, it felt very strange to take that away from a game that's so built upon its whole idea, and yeah, its whole idea of friendship, and to take that away and to give you these knockoff Pokemon as for the pets, it didn't feel like the vibe fit. Kingdom Hearts is almost like annoyingly reminding you that friendship and friends are the way you can defeat everything, and how you need to have your friends, you're stronger with your friends. And so to take them away completely in this one, I mean, I know that Riku's doing the worlds next to you, parallel alternate dimensions or whatever. It just felt really strange, and I know it, like, maybe it's to just serve the story, but it just felt kind of bad. Like I would really have just rather have gone through the worlds with Riku, and if they could have done some cool thing where maybe you could like switch between both of them, and like they have different, you know, attacks or powers or magic or something, and that could have been cool. But yeah, I didn't really care for the pets. I would just like to point out, I know I talked about this on the Chain of Memories, where there's a really, really long end boss fight. And I know that's kind of like the staple of these games, but this one felt extremely long, like extra long. Like, I feel like in Kingdom Hearts 1, like it was long. It was like 45 minutes or something to beat the final boss in all his forms and stuff. But this one was an hour and a half. I timed it. I was fighting for an hour and a half at the end. It was like 5 bosses back to back, no break. The only breaks you get are cutscenes, but like you're not saving in between the cutscenes. Like you can't save at all. And they're really, really annoying bosses that like take you down to 1 health, just off of like a specific attack if you miss it, or they'll reverse time in order to get their health back if you don't kill them quick enough, which those are so annoying because they can really drag out the fight, and especially if you die and then you have to do it all over again. Yeah, that was tough. And then the mini drop game during the credits that you have to get in order to see the true ending, and I missed it because I was looking at something or reading something or whatever. Very strange. And then I got mad because I missed it. I missed one of the letters that I have to grab. And so I'm like, you know what? Fine, I'm not doing this. I'm just going to look it up on YouTube because I don't care. Like, why would you make me do this? I understand maybe it was like a little fun thing and like they were trying to get you to, I don't know, replay the end or the final boss fights again or whatever, but yeah, that I got very frustrated that I missed that. And I did not want to go back and do it again. So, was Dream Drop Distance worth your time? I think that this is one of the ones that you have to keep in mind, the level of Kingdom Hearts sicko you are. I think if you like Kingdom Hearts, then you will probably like this one. I think there's, you know, like with me, I think there will be some things that maybe you don't like all that much, but I think you'll have a good enough time with it. It is still a, you know, a decent game. It's still a fun game. There's things that are going on that are good. But just, you know, be ready for some really weird flow motion fighting, for the fighting to feel really floaty. And then for that huge difficulty spike at the end, with the final bosses. If you like Kingdom Hearts, I think you'll get quite a bit from this one. If you don't, you might not get as much from this. I think if I have to pick between recommending or not, I will say yes, because I do think it is still a fun time. We have now reached, I don't even want to say this name. I hate it so much. Um, 0.2 Birth by Sleep Fragmentary Passage from 2017. Yes, I do. I feel like I just have to take points off for that name. Like it's so bad. Anyways, again, if you really want like a really good breakdown of this, I really recommend Clemps. He did a whole one. Like I said, he combined Dream Drop Distance and this one. But this was essentially, if I had to break it down, an entire game to show why Mickey was not wearing a shirt in Kingdom Hearts 1 and when he has a shirt the entire rest of the series, and why his Keyblade was gold, which will be found out later to be the Keyblade of Darkness, and why that is. And why Aqua was there, talking to Ansem. So, it is very, very weird to see these characters in the Unreal 4 engine. This is the very first game that was on the, well, I guess not the most current consoles because we're on, you know, PS5 now. Last, I guess, you know, the gen before, PS4. And it was weird seeing, you know, much more real, because I know that we saw them in 3D in the other games. These 2D characters that have become 3D. I understand that, but when you go for even more realistic 3D, then the 2D characters start to look very strange. Like a good example of this, I think, is like Jump Force. If you've ever played that, the anime fighting game, where they tried to take like Dragon Ball and One Piece and all these, and they put them into a 3D fighter that released on the PS4. Everybody looked like it was just so weird, like such an uncanny valley. And these ones are no different. Like it's a very strange look. Two definitely looked better, just like objectively, because of how like these characters fit within the world and next to each other. But again, this was just a tech demo. So it's like it wasn't supposed to look perfect. And I think that they really, really did fix a lot of the issues with some of the 3D models once Kingdom Hearts 3 came out. So it's not that big a deal, but just as a fair warning, like it's going to look strange when you boot it up. So, is it worth it? Well, it took me 3 hours. So, I guess depending on whether you think that sounds worth it or not, to play a 3 hour game. And I wasn't like blowing through this either. Like I was trying to take it at a slow speed, at a good pace. I was exploring everything. I was looking for everything that I could. Is it worth it? I'm gonna have to say no. I really don't think it was. There was some cool stuff, some fun stuff here and there, but nothing that was not completely outdone by Kingdom Hearts 3. And is it really, really that important to understand why Mickey wasn't wearing a shirt? I don't think so. So I'm gonna have to say no, unless you are an absolute sicko for the story and you need to know these like few little things about Aqua and what she's been doing in the realm of darkness and all that, which like I feel like you kind of already know. She's just kind of wandering. So I no, I don't think it's worth it. All right. I it's me from the future. I completely forgot when I was editing the video. I realized that I completely forgot to talk about X back cover, Unchained X, Union X Cross, and Backroad. I don't know how I skipped these ones. Anyways, so I want to talk about them. They all came out around 2013. Um, I believe Backroad in 2013 was the last one. Now, I think they're supposed to be pronounced like chi. The X is like the Greek pronunciation, I believe, of the word, if I recall correctly from Kingdom Hearts 3 and maybe even Birth by Sleep. I think Xehanort calls it the Chi Blade. But anyways, I'm just gonna call it X to keep it easy. So as you can see, this is a super different style game than most. They did actually make like a 3D movie, so of Backroad, kind of all condensed together, so that you could watch it and understand what's happening. But when you were playing it on your mobile phone, the little chibi cartoon, that's what it looked like. And you made your character and you ran around a 2D side scroller world and you fought. So from you can no longer play this game. All you can do is download it and go in and watch all of like the movies. And from what I understand, I went and was looking at like old Reddit posts about people talking and kind of explaining how this game was in its heyday. And it sounds like a very extreme, grindy gotcha game. It's exactly what I think they intended it to be. So I have no idea if any of this is true. If someone has played it and wants to kind of back this up or whatever, feel free. Apparently, it took 300 missions just to hit the title screen, which is nuts. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if this person is exaggerating or not. It is turn-based chibi style though. It is about gotcha pulls. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. So because it's a gotcha game, people would complain online. A gotcha game, essentially, if you don't know, I guess I'll give a brief breakdown. Is you're hoping for random pulls of characters that are gonna help you. So right here, these are the slots that you have. You're hoping for character pulls in these different slots. If you get better characters, because look, see, they have fighting numbers. The better they are, the more you want to put them and give them priority in the slots. And then the more you want to give them priority in the slots. And so it's random. Like you're just hoping for good numbers, you're hoping for good pulls, then you can get your slots filled up better and you can take on better monsters and make it a little easier on yourself. But in keeping with the tradition of gotcha games that would like you to spend money, from everything that I've read, damage scales terribly. So like you hit a wall pretty quick in terms of the things that you're fighting, and you're gonna have to sit and grind and fight for a long time. It's kind of like when you're playing Candy Crush, you know, you hit that one level that you just can't beat, and you're so close, and you're like, oh, well, if I just, pay for this one thing, this one move, or, in this case, this one character, I'd be able to beat it. And that's kind of their goal, is to get you to spend money. So from everything that I've read and understand, that's pretty common. So pretty typical phone game. It also keeps with the tradition of Kingdom Hearts naming things incredibly confusingly, as you can tell. And I really don't know what the names are supposed to mean still. I don't know what a back road is. I don't know what a Union Cross is. I don't know what a back cover is. So yeah, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. Um, so kind of just like it's really really hard to give like a summary of these games. Essentially, what it is it's talking about the worlds before even Kingdom Hearts 1. This is like real prequel stuff of like the Keyblade wielders and the Keyblade War and all that went into that and led to that. That's about as much as I can explain because I had to watch like a 6 hour video. I'm not joking. um, it was a 6 hour video of cutscenes from all of these combined. And I watched it because I wanted to understand and try to understand what was going on when I talked about this. And I understand the basic premise of what's happening with Xehanort, and all the kids and Yuzora shows up, and but in terms of like just the finer points of the story, they're a little lost. It, it's a little confusing, as it is with all Kingdom Hearts. All Kingdom Hearts stories, they get a little bit lost in themselves. But if you want to watch them, then shout out to Damo279. I'll have the link in the description if you want to watch it. He had all the cutscenes of the first couple games on his YouTube, and then Everglow had all the cutscenes for Dark Road. So essentially, because I'm sure you could guess, because they're starting out and they're talking about like the new worlds, they just arrived, they're here and they're mysterious, and oh, what do we do? They're infected with darkness, and that's what the Keyblade wielders do, is they protect the the worlds from darkness. But as you can see, I mean, we're looking at we're looking at Alice in Wonderland characters. We saw Aladdin characters. There's Snow White characters. There's a lot of, again, retreading. You're going back to the same places, and even though it's in this format, so it looks a little bit different, it's it's the same worlds, so it's frustrating even to watch again. um, Much less play. There are a couple new ones. One of them was the Wreck-It Ralph world, which actually looked pretty cool. They made it seem pretty fun, but that was, like I said, one of the few new worlds. So yeah, if you care about the story at all, um, I really don't think it's necessary. I feel like it to explain Xehanort's his motivations and why he did the things he did. Him and Ericus especially play a big role in the later ones, especially in Backroad. That's kind of focused on them, and that one's pretty good. A pretty good story, but again, like I said, it's a little bit convoluted. It's a little bit unnecessary. Do I feel like you need it in order to understand what the other games are doing? Not really, but if you're a super Kingdom Hearts sicko and you want to know what happened in the time before, then sure, you could give it a watch. But like I said, it feels drawn out because it is. I mean, like I said, this was a mobile game that they expected to go on forever. There were seasons, people were waiting, for updates, as they would beat stuff and run up into like the end of the story, and then have to keep going when new content released. So it feels drawn out. It feels like they understood what they were doing and trying to drag it out, create more content, create more things to sell. So, is it worth it to even go back and watch? Tough to say. Like I said, your mileage will vary. I think that the story of Xehanort and Ericus is much more compelling. And I think that if there were any of the ones that I suggested you watch, it would be that one. I really didn't care for the story of your character and meeting Yozora and stuff, because that seemed like already kind of retreaded ground, stuff that we already knew that they talked about, and we just really didn't need to see it all. So, if you really, really want to, I recommend going back and watching Backroad. But other than that, I really can't recommend it. It was a long time. It was 6 hours that I will not get back of watching a mobile game. So uh, take from that what you will. All right, we come to one of the final pillars of this game series, Kingdom Hearts 3, released in 2019. It is continuing the story that began with the first one all the way back at the start, and all of the games that have come in between, trying to tie them all together. Now, like I said, in the Fragmentary Passage one, had a problem with how it looked, but I will say they fixed a lot in Kingdom Hearts 3. I think it is an incredibly gorgeous game. I think it looks awesome. I think that the animations and the movement and everything just looks so fluid. It looks so good, and especially with how they combined it with these realistic looking characters, and then also, with the cartoon characters, and they had the added, kind of difficulty of trying to combine 2D, early 3D, and now these new characters that they have. But I think that they nailed it. I think every world that you go to, it looks like you're just straight in the movie that you've gone to. It's really, really cool. It feels epic too. I mean, like I said, everything's coming together and culminating. Even if it's all kind of weird and still feels like maybe Nomura is just still like he's just like freestyling this whole thing. Like since the beginning, and he very well might have been. I have no idea. I would not be shocked, but also like I hope that's not the case. But like I said, yeah, it feels a little bit all over the place, but I do like that it's starting to feel like he's making an attempt to wrap everything up. I do appreciate that. I don't know how to feel about the rides that were incorporated into the fighting, into the gameplay, the battling. You'll get a little QTE prompt that pops up that says, oh, click this to do teacups or to do, I don't know, what's the other one? The Thunder or something? Thunder Mountain is one of them in there. I don't, what is it? The boat one, the little inflatable raft one. Whatever. It doesn't matter. But they kind of take away from the vibe of the game. Like you're in, a really tense fight with like Davy Jones on a pirate boat that's, about to fall down into the maelstrom. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, hop on the Buzz Lightyear laser fight so you can, and it's just like, wow, okay. It feels weird. They also threw everything into this game. So you've got the flow motion. You've got uh, you can have pets if you want. They've got the shot lock that started in Birth by Sleep. Like it's just they give you a lot, man. Like a lot. They have just kind of thrown everything in, and I think it's too much. Because like I'm sitting here and I know how to do all this stuff from playing the previous games, so I'm using everything. I'm using, I do the flow motion, I do the shot lock, I do the final form that you can go into, and like it's a lot, and it's a lot of damage too that they're giving you. So yeah, I don't know how to feel about all that. I thought people were exaggerating maybe a little bit when they were talking about how easy this game was, but after playing it, this is one that I might have actually, the first one that I've ever played that I'm like, man, I probably should have played that on proud mode. Because I didn't trust it. I was like, no, it's a Kingdom Hearts game. Like I know how these games go. You put it on proud mode and you start just getting absolutely whooped. But this was the first one that I was like, I probably could have had it on proud mode and actually been okay. Probably might have been a little more fun. They also give you like way more than enough AP points too, so like you can have every ability that you want. That's the other thing. Like I kind of felt like in the old games, I was having to choose between abilities that like I either needed or didn't need based on what I was doing. Especially in like one, you were swapping between stuff, but they just kind of gave you a lot in this one and are like, oh, go nuts, get every ability you want. The Keyblades also, for whatever reason, are just really ugly in this game. Not that that matters, but like the Keyblades have always been so cool in these games, and they've always looked so good, and they're really ugly, and I don't understand it. They just look so bad. Just the design. I guess I was just surprised because yeah, like I said, they've been so strong in the other ones. The Deputy Keyblade especially is like an abomination. I I hated that one. But I did think it had a cool special move. So the boss fights also, they just kind of continue to get more and more epic as the game goes on. The one in Arendelle especially I thought was really really cool, and then even at the start of like the Pirates of the Caribbean world, like you were just thrown into like a really cool boss fight. I don't know. I was actually pretty impressed. I thought they were really fun. Like I said, a little bit easier than I was anticipating, but I thought they were really cool. The one thing I will say I was shocked by is that we got another underwater level. I I'm not gonna lie, I did not think we'd see another water level after what happened in 2 and they made it into a rhythm game. I was like, there's no way that we're gonna get another another water level. But they did. They gave us a water level in Pirates of the Caribbean. You go back underwater, which I'm not gonna lie, I was not a fan of. Again, I wanted to be, swashbuckling on the high seas. I did not want to be swimming underwater. The controls are much better this time around. I must say the lock on is a lot better. It's really not so much verticality anymore. And you have big old swings that go everywhere, so you can kind of hit everything a lot easier than you could in the other games. So I did enjoy it. It's a water level. Like it doesn't feel super fun. I didn't care for it. It was not my least favorite world though. Honestly, if I had to pick my least favorite world, I would say that San Fran Tokyo was my least favorite. that one felt so strange. It felt like they were trying to bring in this like weird like semi open world element where it was like kind of an open world but not really because it had boundaries still, but they wanted you to go and explore the whole thing, and it was just really boring. Like, and then the boss fight in that one was really boring too. It was just like a flying and shooting like while the boss chases you, and I didn't like it. Overall, this game is not for everyone. It does not quite reach the highs of the rest of the series, like in Kingdom Hearts 2. But I still think that, man, it's really beautiful, and I do think that it's epic. I think it's a treat for the fans of the series, especially if you have been diligently playing every single game like I did. And even if maybe like the story decisions kind of let you down and how they decided to end some things or set some things up, I do think that the mobile tie-in was a little bit cringe. At the end fight, there is a moment where you will use a powerful move and you'll see all the names of all the people who were in like the Union Cross, back road games, and like that was just kind of weird. And I didn't care because I didn't play those games. Maybe if you spent like a ton of time and a ton of money on this gotcha game and then you saw your name in there, yeah, maybe you were like, oh my god, it was worth it. But yeah, I didn't care. So I will say that it was sad too. This is kind of off topic, but it was sad that Xehanort's voice actor Leonard Nimoy died. But I thought that Rutger Hauer and Christopher Lloyd did do good jobs picking up where he left off. I mean, Christopher Lloyd especially is just kind of a legend, so that is very cool that he was in it. The only thing I don't understand is why they made his head so veiny in 3. His head is like there's so many blue veins on his head. It's so weird. It's so distracting. Every time he's on the screen, I'm just looking at his head and I don't know why there's so many veins. But but yeah, like I said, is this game worth your time? Yeah, I think it is. I think that it will disappoint different people in different ways. If you're a fan of the series, I think that it's going to disappoint you just in the fact that it's not quite the same as the other ones, and the fact that it's easier. Maybe there's just some things that you don't like. But if you're not a fan of the series, I think it will probably disappoint you in actually it might be in the same ways too. I mean, maybe you'll be disappointed by the fact that it's not as hard, or maybe in the storyline, but I fail to see how a game that has been setting up for this long and is still going. Let's be clear, we're getting a Kingdom Hearts 4. Like this is not the last game. This is not the end of Kingdom Hearts. I don't know when that will be, but for a series that's been going this long, has had this many spinoffs, has had this many different plot points that they're trying to connect throughout all, I don't know how you could be a Kingdom Hearts fan and be disappointed in the story, because I thought it was a very admirable attempt to try to tie everything together, especially at the end. So I do recommend this one. Absolutely. All right. 2020. We got the Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind DLC. So, a lot of this one, as far as I can tell, it was based on the fact that people thought that Kingdom Hearts 3 was a little bit easy. So, I believe Nomura and Square Enix, apologized and then put this out and said, okay, this is for those of you who think that it was too easy. We hope you have fun with this. The boss fights definitely seem like they've been boosted. And I'll admit they're a lot more fun. I do feel like they're a bit more challenging. But again, I don't like that I'm essentially replaying. And I know I've said this like probably, 3 or 4 times now, but I don't like that I'm essentially replaying the ending from 3. Like, it's the same deal. I get we're seeing it from the other side. What's everyone doing while Sora is in what's that world called? The starter world, the Keyblade world. And it's like, yeah, sure. What were they doing while you were in there? I honestly, I didn't think that they were doing anything. I thought that they were just protecting the entrance to Kingdom Hearts that we entered into to fight. But I digress. The final fight, I will say though, from everyone else's perspective, is super fun, and I did enjoy that. I thought it was pretty epic, and I thought that it was a really cool. If you were going to show what everyone was doing, I thought it was a cool way to do it. I will say though, the part where you're Mickey and then you have to mash triangle to stand up and walk and then time the quick time event perfectly, I didn't like that. It was a little annoying. It took me a few tries to get it. Yeah, I hate those like mash to stand up or mash to lift the door or whatever. Like that's just I get that it's for like maybe loading times or whatever or anything, but I don't think that's what it was doing this time. And yeah, I didn't care for that fact that I had to mash the triangle button to get Mickey to stand. I will say though, one thing that seemed really, really weird was the audio seemed super questionable on this DLC. Like that they did not spend the time or maybe the money that they needed to. I've never played a video game before where I was like, wow, this doesn't sound super professional. Obviously there are like low budget games and stuff, and I'm sure I'm probably being, hyperbolic for the sake of trying to explain how jarring it was, but it was like listening to it, and maybe I'm crazy, maybe I just my speakers were not sounding good then or something, I don't know, but it sounded like some of the characters have first off completely different voice actors, which was very weird. Like maybe they couldn't get everybody back to do the voices for the DLC, but the mic noise and then the level discrepancies just kind of seemed like they were all over the place. Like some of the characters would talk and they seemed like they were a lot louder than some of the other characters, and some of the other characters were a lot quieter than the other ones. So this DLC came out with Limit Cut, which Limit Cut is essentially Square Enix's, like I said, it was their attempt to appease those who thought Kingdom Hearts 3 was too easy. So it's more data fights. They actually bring back Data Sora from the Recoded, and he goes into and he's in Sid's computer, and they find hidden data, and you go in and there are new data fights that you can do. I did not do them because, as I said in the Kingdom Hearts 2, I do find them to be just kind of tedious fights more than like fun. I know that Square put a lot of love though and care into these fights and like the animations and the things they changed. So I did go onto YouTube and watch other people play them and do like super impressive run throughs of like, zero hit data fight or whatever. So I know how gorgeous they look. I know how great the attack animations are for everyone and stuff. So I will say that. Also, you know, I warned about spoilers earlier, so I'm gonna again warn about like a pretty big one. That, well, maybe it's big, maybe it's not. We don't really know at this point. But so the secret boss, who comes out, was about as confusing as I was expecting based on like where I could see the story was going and from what I had heard. I do look forward to finding out like the purpose of this character, most likely in Kingdom Hearts 4, since that seems from the trailer that we are going to be in Quadrata. And so I am very curious as to where that is going and why. And I pray that it pays off in some way. And it's not just Nomura's like, yeah, this character seems cool. But yeah, we will see. So is this DLC as a whole worth your time? I think that, yeah, I do. I think it's a tentative yes, because your mileage will vary depending on how much of a boss fight sicko you are and how much you like the fighting mechanics of Kingdom Hearts 3. I am not as big of a fan of the fighting mechanics of Kingdom Hearts 3. As I said before, I do believe that they have gone a little bit too into the weeds in terms of like the floatiness and the flying and how long you're in the air when you're fighting in Kingdom Hearts 3. It just doesn't feel as good as it did in Kingdom Hearts 2. It's gotten away from them a little bit, I think. But like I said, if you really enjoy boss fights, if you want a harder challenge, and you want to do all these data fights, you will have a blast. Going through the ending again, is also a little bit tedious for me, just because, like I said, I don't like rehashing similar story beats, but I do think that it is worth it for the epic end battle where friendship is power, and that is how you defeat all of the enemies. You know, like I said before, when I was talking about Dream Drop Distance, this series really hangs its hat on the fact that friendship is everything and friendship is power. And you know what? To their credit, you feel that in the last fight. When all of you are together and you're all fighting Xehanort's vessels, it's very cool. And I do think that it's a good showing of like this is what all the friends can do when they combine in Kingdom Hearts. So a tentative yes for recommending. And we have finally reached the end of the games. Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memories, also released later in 2020. And oh, it's a sweet relief from action games and card games. Deck builders. Let me tell you, I do really like rhythm games. So I'm going to be biased. Games like this, like Rock Band, like all that stuff, Guitar Hero, I do enjoy all those. So, I'm going to be biased when I say that it is quite fun. But I do still think it's worth it. The boss battles and the flying sections, I actually think are more fun than the regular fights when you're doing this like running along the grid. Um, it feels like it flows a little bit better for rhythm. Um, and then including the analog sticks, it feels really good too. Like it feels like the rhythm games that you play in the arcade, you know? I don't know if you've ever played any of those. Like they're usually like the Japanese rhythm games, and they've got like the two, you know, uh, sticks that you move in time to like um, the rhythm, and you slide around, and like it feels good, you know. So I would say that this right here that's showing, that is my favorite. I do wish that there were more RPG elements. It didn't really feel like my stats did much. I could be wrong. And maybe I'm just an idiot and I wasn't understanding what they were doing, but it didn't really feel like it ever really made that big of a difference. Which was unfortunate because my friend was saying that because he had played Theater Rhythm for Final Fantasy, and he was saying that your stats actually have a lot to do with how well you do in that rhythm game. So I was a little disappointed that it didn't. Also didn't really feel like it did anything to change, you know, when you change parties. And I know that it said like, hey, you know, it doesn't do anything, it's just cosmetic, but I at least I believe it said that, you know, it was just cosmetic, but I do wish that it changed a little bit depending on like who you were being and like your stats moved and stuff. So of course, of course, there was story at the end. I would not expect anything less from Nomura. I was like, this has to be just a game for fun, but no, there's lore. There is lore in here. At the very very end when you beat the game. So, uh, I expect nothing less. And it's a long ending that you can't save during. It's classic stuff. It's not like an hour and a half, but it's still decent. I think it was about a half an hour that it took me. Is it worth it though? Is it worth your time? Uh, yeah, absolutely. It's a super fun rhythm game. They do set up more of the story, like I said. And for what it's worth, I actually do think that it's a great way to get a full recap of the story in a pretty comprehensive way. If you've forgotten or like you need a refresher before you play Missing Link or Kingdom Hearts 4, which are, you know, Missing Link is the new mobile game that's coming out, that's kind of based upon the Pokemon Go engine. So yeah, I do think that this is worth it. So definitely check it out if you're a Kingdom Hearts fan. If you just like rhythm games, it's really good. All right, so now we come to the books, the mangas that were released in 2003. I actually own the physical copy of the first one. Kind of what kickstarted this whole thing was because I was like, I wonder how many people know that there is a manga series, because I had no idea. So I actually think that it works quite well as a manga. From what I understand, too, the artist who did the actual artwork for the game was asked to do it for the manga as well. So I do think that's pretty fun. The artwork's beautiful. I will say it's a little bit hard to follow the manga, just because I think they're trying to condense like 30+ hour games into a few manga books, so it's gonna be a little difficult. But I'm not gonna lie, it was also a big surprise that there was what is heavily implied to be a prostitute in Traverse Town when Sora first gets there. But it does seem like they're able to get away with a lot more in the books. Like there's some mild swearing and like I said, that and then I don't know, it just feels like a little bit they're allowed to get away with a little bit more. I wonder if it's because Disney maybe is was not like paying as much attention to the manga when it released. I don't know. That's just a theory, but they're also pretty meta too. Like they talk to the reader. Sora will like reference moves and then kind of like wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So he'll be like, "That's a good move." You know. Mm. So which I did think was pretty funny. As far as in the Chain of Memory manga, I think it's probably because they're trying to make it more interesting, but they really, really upped the comedy. And I think it's because it's kind of hard to do like an amnesia story in the same worlds that you've already been to in Kingdom Hearts 1, which is kind of my problem with the game. Um, and so they did a lot more of like stupidity and like physical comedy between like the organization people, while Sora and them are like off doing a world that you've already seen before. They'll switch back to like uh, the organization members doing like some kind of mundane task like cooking dinner or something, and like and there'll be you know gaffs will abound. So it was fun. The Kingdom Hearts 2 manga is really long. They really expanded on certain areas and tried to like explain more of the motivations behind the characters, but I did feel like it started to indulge itself like a little bit too much and started going off on storylines that really didn't move the story forward. Like it just felt like it was kind of unnecessary. But I did think that at the end they were able to pull it together. I think it all kind of, was brought together at the end really nicely. And I actually did end up loving Kairi's story arc in the manga a lot more than I did in the game. I felt like they did her a lot better. A lot more of a solid in the manga as opposed to in the game. She kind of gets relegated to just damsel in distress, and she's not really there. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then honestly, I just recommend reading the 358 over 2 manga instead of even watching the movie or playing the game. Some people in the comments were even recommending it over playing the game because it's a super well done story that explains the game and everything so much better, and you get the emotion still that comes through that you would get from the movie. And I don't know, I think it's a lot better. Definitely one to check out. And then finally, the Kingdom Hearts novel. Okay, so most of these they're these two are in Japanese, then they'll do the English one which just has like the full story. So for example, right here it would say that all three novels were published in English as a 600-page book, and that's kind of like what would happen. Or like all these Japanese ones were published into two. So with this, I know that I said I tried to do every single piece of media, and I can still look, and maybe I'll do like an update for this if I'm able to find them, but I could not find these anywhere. I couldn't find them from any library. I couldn't find them just online to read. It looked like someone on Tumblr had like started to do a translation of them, but then abandoned it because there were these English releases. But the English releases are really hard to find. I couldn't find any of them, and the only ones I could find were on on Amazon, It was like $20 for each one. Um, and that's just a lot of money because as you see, there's a lot. Um, there's a lot of them. I'd probably be spending about, oh, I don't know, what is that, like $160? I just didn't really feel like doing that. Um, as far as I can tell from everything that I read about them, from these descriptions, from the reader reviews, they are quite literally just straight up novelizations of the games. Like if you've played the games, the novel just tells you what happens in the game. Like for example, right here it says some scenes are combined, such as the two parasite cages, or there's complete absences like Olympus, Coliseum, Halloween Town, and Atlantica. So like you're not even getting the full, you know, story. So I really was like, is this worth it? To buy these all just to read these games that I have now played and read in manga form? I didn't think so. And especially because a lot of the reviews were people just being like, "Oh my gosh, these are so fun. It's the only way I can get my like grandson to read." So I would be reading like beginner's chapter books about games that I've already played. So hopefully, this doesn't upset anybody too much that I did not go, I guess, full 100%. Um, but I did what I thought was made the most sense. Um, so yeah, I don't think I'm missing anything special. But if someone has read them and there is like crazy special stuff in here that I'm missing out on, let me know. I will try to find a way to maybe pick them up and then maybe talk about them. But okay, that is it. That is the end. I want to thank you all for watching, especially if you made it through this entire thing. That's insane. You must love Kingdom Hearts. Probably as much as me. If you disagree with anything that I said during this whole video, let me know down in the comments below. I would love to hear what I got wrong, what you disagree with, whatever. Let me know. You can also hit me up on my social medias. Those are in the description too. So, I have more of these planned. I would like this to be kind of the main thing that I do on this channel. Whether that's whole series, whether if maybe a game doesn't fit into a series, maybe I just do kind of like a random roundup of games where I go over them. But yeah, I kind of like these longer form ones where I can just kind of ramble because I am somewhat decent at it, I think. Who knows if, people will respond to it, if they'll want to listen to it. We'll see. If there's a series that you would like me to do, let me know in the comments below. I've got a couple I'm working on right now. So if you say one of the ones I'm working on, I'm going to be really excited. If you say a different one, I'll try to get to it. Also, if you want to see a more traditional just star rating system of what I think of these games, I do have a backlogged account, which I will leave in the description as well if you would like to go follow me there. I just feel like there's enough reviewers and, out of tens and fives and everything on here that it's like I wanted to just do more of a, hey, is this thing worth your time? Is it fun to play? Yes or no? So that's why I went this route. But like I said, if you want to see star ratings for all of these and see what I'm playing, what I'm working on, probably see which games series I'm going to do next because you'll see me rating them as I go. Yeah, head down to my backlogged in the description. And then if you would like some video game music from some of these games that I'm doing and want to listen to some remixes or tracks that are just inspired by them, again, head down into the description. I've got some projects up that people seem to be enjoying. So if you enjoyed this, thank you. You can leave a like. You can hit that subscribe. It's never expected, but it's always appreciated. and I'll see you guys on the next one. Oh, and I should say, so as I pointed out before too, I know that there are more Kingdom Hearts games coming out. I don't really know what I'm gonna. I haven't really thought about what I'm gonna do in that case when there are new ones that come out. I think I'll probably just do like a similar thing to this. Like, is it worth it? And I'll just put it out like a Kingdom Hearts, uh, you know, media. Is it worth your time? And I'll just include like a missing link or uh Kingdom Hearts 4 or whatever happens, or maybe I'll wait and do them both at the same time. I don't know. I'll try to keep up though with these ones that are with these IPs that are still going. So because I am very much looking forward to Missing Link and to Kingdom Hearts 4 and seeing what's up, what Sora's doing, where we're going, where the story's going. So yeah.